Hi YouTube, Regina here from Simply Fundamental. So today I want to talk to you about the power of compounding. Compounding is an interesting one because in the beginning, your contributions matter more, and compounding really doesn't take effect until the exponentials come into play. So it's a multiplier. And so I want to go through the numbers to show you what it looks like and how different rates of return really affect compounding. Now, you've heard me on this channel speak about the rule of 72. That is basically a shortcut that tells you how long it will take for your money to double depending on the interest rate of return that you get. So compounding could work for you or against you, and it works against you if you have debt, and it works for you if you have money that is earning an interest rate of any kind. Now, the better the interest rate, the quicker the time the multiplier will come into effect, and the quicker the bend on the curve. And so compounding tends to look like a hockey stick over time. In the beginning, it's very flat, and then it goes up, and it's almost like magic because it goes up really, really high. So I want to go over the rule of 72 and show you how you figure out the exact exponential on your money. So the rule of 72 is what you use to tell you how long it takes to double your money. The rule of 144 tells you how much to quadruple your money. So you would just take the rate of return and divide it into the 72 and it would tell you. So we're going to take the rate of 6%, 8%, and 10%. And we're going to see where our money will be in 36 years. So 6 goes into 72. In 12 years, your money doubles. Again, this is the doubling effect, the rule of 72. Tells you how long would your original balance double. And so with the rate of interest rate of 6%, 12 years. With an interest rate of 8%, 9 years. And with an interest rate of 10%, 10 goes into 72, it would be 7.2 years. But we're going to just basically use 7. We're going to use the flat numbers. Now, how many times does 36, 6%, the 12 years go into 36? That would be 3. So we're going to get 3 exponentials. How many times would 9 go into 36? That would be 4. And 7 going to that would be 5. And so $1 for the 6%, you get 3 exponentials times 2. This is the doubling effect. Times 2 equals. So $1 times 2 is $2. $2 times 2 is $4. $4 times 2 is 8. So $1, at first it's slow. The first 12 years, it only grew to $2. The next 12 years, it grew to $4. And then the next 12 years, it surpassed all the contributions and eclipsed everything else. So that's where you see that $4 grew to $8. And it took over all the first 24 years. Now, the same $1 at 8%, you would get 4 exponentials, and that would be 16. And the same $1 at 10%, you would get 5 doublings. And that would be 31. Really should be 32, but because it's 7.2 years, it's not actually 32. So you see the rate of return would be different. So 1 at 10%, $1 at 10% would be 2. 2 times 2 would be 4. 4 times 2 would be 8. 8 times 2 would be 16. And 16 times 2 would be 32. So that just going from 16 to 32, every year it's doubling what you previously had. So that's the magic behind compounding. And of course, it works against you as well. So if you have a lot of high interest debt, let's say you have $10,000 in credit card debt and you have a 24% interest rate, the rule of 72, you would take that 24% into the 72, and every 3 years, you are doubling the 10,000 every 3 years if you're not bringing down the principal at all. So that would mean that's why it takes so long for people to get out of debt when they have these high interest rates that are going to banks. Now, the other thing that you really see is that interest rate made such a vast difference. It's just 4% interest rate, but you have almost four times the amount of money going from 8 to 31. Then you also see if you extended this time frame, and this is the reason why people who start early, even though they may not invest as much, they can outpace anyone because they have time on their side. And then you can also see the differences that happen with interest rates. Obviously, if you're getting 3% on your money, the 3% going into 72 would be every 24 years, your money would double. So the stock market typically does around 10%. And of course, inflation eats into that number as well. So every 24 years, your money is going to feel like it isn't as much. It's going to be it's that same $1 is going to feel like 50 cents in 24 years at 3% inflationary rate. So even though the money grew, that's going to feel like that amount of money with inflation in effect. So that's why you do want to save. But this way we're showing you with $1, you want to save and invest. With $1, how much that would be. Now, if this was $50, and let's just say we take a different interest rate, 50,000, and you invested 50,000 when you were 20. How much would you have when you're 60, 40 years? And let's say you're getting 10% return. So the rule of 72, you divide it by the 10% return. Again, or actually, let's take a different number. Let's take 9%. You get 9%. That would be every 8 years, your money would double. 8 goes into 45 times. So it would be 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So that 50,000 would be 100,000. That 100,000 multiplied 2 would be 200,000. The 200,000 multiplied by 2 would be 400,000. I don't know if you could see that. The 400,000 multiplied by 2 would be 800,000. And then multiply by the last 2 by the 40 years, it'd be 1,600,000 simply from 50,000 that you invested early on. That's the power of compounding. So you could take the 3 rates of return and plot them on a chart, and one would be the dollar amount and one would be the years. So this would be the dollar and this would be the years. I'm going to do this again. And then these would be increments of 5 years. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And this would be 35. So remember we said 36 years. So this would be 40. And so at 36 years, at 6%, 8%, and 10%, you'll have 3 lines. And this would be $5, $10, $15, $20, $25, 30, 35, 40. At 6%, it would take you, that $1 would take 10 years. I'm probably doing it wrong. The second double, the doubling to equal. So by the time it went up to 8, it'd be here. So that would be the 6%. Then 8%, we know it's going to go to 16. And plotting it. So there's 16. And then that 10% return would turn up and go like that. So that's why it looks like a hockey stick. And then, of course, with more time and more doubling effect, these would start to take and go up this way as well. And soon, eventually, it would go up. Because if you had another 7 years on this one, another 5, you would see It would go all the way past the charts on the amount of money of what it would be. That's why you have that curve when you see exponential growth. In the beginning, you're not going to see a lot. It's going to happen when the exponential, it's usually the second doubling that shows a lot. So the $1 going to $2 times two, it doubled. But it's really when you have the second doubling that goes into effect that you really start to see the growth. So 1 multiplied by 2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. And so on and so forth, that you start to see real growth. This is why you see someone like Warren Buffett, who's had so much time in the market, such great returns. If his money is doubling and he's getting a rate of return of, let's say, 15% or 16%, 16 going into 72 is a vastly shorter time period than 10. So your doubling rate would be changed. So 24% going into 72, 3 years. 20% going into the 72, 3 point something years. 15% going into 72 would be 4 point something years, and your money would be doubled. Pretty powerful. That's why I want you to invest as much as you can in your retirement, particularly if you're young, because when compounding is on your side, it is magical. It's really just math and the exponential of the rate of return and time being on your side. Now, if you're pulling money out or you have other things working against you like inflation, inflation's going to eat a little bit at your money. If 3% rate of return for inflation, that means every 24 years your dollar is going to be worth 50 cents. And so, yeah, it's going to take a little bit away, but generally the market returns between 10 and 11%. And even if inflation is 3%, you're talking about between 7 and 8% return on your money still. And even a 7% return on your money is the doubling effect comes in every 10 years. So every 10 years, your money is double. Every 10 years after that, it is quadrupled. Every 10 years after that, it is 8 times, and so on and so forth. And this is why time is really the multiplier when it comes to compounding. And this is also another reason why debt compounds against you and why some people do not build wealth. It's because they're in debt and they have higher interest rates that actually compound against them using that same rule of 72. And that's why they never feel like they're getting ahead with money, and they're giving their wealth away when you have debt. And you have to do everything in your power to come up with money and find ways to pay that debt down so that you can have compounding, not stealing from your wealth, and then use it to build wealth. Anyway, this is Regina from Simply Fundamental. I hope this was helpful. Explain the curves, the things working for you, and why compounding can work for you and against you, and how time is so powerful. And the more time you have, the better. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't start. Sometimes the market produces such great returns. And other times, I mean, you have years where it goes up a lot and some years where it goes down. But on average, at least if you are investing, even if you're getting a smaller rate of return, you're going to feel better having money than not having money. So just saying, geez, it's too late for me. There is no such thing as being too late unless, as far as having money compounding for you, because interest, still growing interest is still interest. Anyway, this is Regina from Simply Fundamental. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.